Yeah, so we're coming off a good week of practice after we had our first exhibition game against Fort Lewis. It was a classic exhibition game in that there was moments where we looked good and moments where it's like looked like we hadn't practiced much. And every program I've ever been a part of, that's what exhibition games are. So I thought it was good. You kind of get through the nerves, and we ended up the game, we were up like 16, 18 points, and then they kind of cut it close, and you got to figure out a way to win, which I think is, again, good practice. And like I told the team before the game and after the game, we're 0-0. This is just kind of glorified practice. And so it was good. I think it was a good experience for our players, and we won, and we saw some good things and some things we got to work on. And so we've had a good week. And now on Friday we play a very good South Dakota team, and they're a postseason experienced team, very well coached, very disciplined, fundamental, very good team. So we have our hands full, but we're ready to. I think we're all kind of tired of practicing against ourselves and talking about ourselves, and so it's a nice chance to have a scouting report and prepare for somebody else. So we're looking forward to it.
What do you see out of South Dakota that makes them such a difficult team? I mean, a WNIT team last year.
I think they're just, from what I've watched quite a bit of film. Just as a staff, we'll start going over it with our team today. But they're just very disciplined, and offensively and defensively, they don't. They're the type of teams that they don't beat themselves. So defensively, watching film, they're extremely fundamental. They don't, silly fouls or lunging or reaching or, they just play very solid defense, which can give teams trouble, especially this early in the season. And then offensively, I think they're balanced. They've got great point guard play. They've got good wings. They've got good posts. And, I think anytime a team is balanced like that, they're tough to beat.
You've talked about coaching the process a lot, and this is your first year. What does that look like exactly?
Yeah, so I talk a lot about that. You're right, about coaching the process. And I think it just means that, with a new coaching staff and new players, and they're getting used to us, and we're learning them in terms of what they're great at, just things, how we can make them better. Put them in better situations. I think coaching the process means you have to just understand that there's going to be bumps in the road, and anytime change is difficult no matter what the context, and there's adjustment necessary when there's change, and everybody's you kind of have to just roll with it. And so that's what I mean when I talk about coaching the process. And I think process within this season, and then the process of over the next few years in terms of recruiting and culture change and all that. It's a process, and I have done this long enough to know that there is no quick solution. There's no quick fix. There's no miracle button that you can push and suddenly you're, a championship team. It takes time and patience and just a lot of hard work. And so I think as a coach, when you're coaching your players, you just have to remind them of that and not get too high and not get too low and just continue to grind, really.
And throughout your career as a head coach, do you have any favorite memories of your first game at a school?
First game memories, I don't. It's just I don't think one stands out more than the other, but I do think that I was a college basketball player myself. There's just something fun about that first weekend when it counts, and it doesn't change as a coach. It's not as fun as when you're a player, but coaching's the next best thing. And so I think there's just kind of an excitement of like, okay, season's finally here. I remember it vividly as a player, kind of counting down the days in the kitchen. We had a pull-off calendar where it was like 18, 17. And so as a coach, you get that excitement too, that just it's finally season. You've put in so much work, so much talk about it, and let's finally get going.
Going back to the process that you had talked about, like you said, obviously you can't build a championship team in your first year. Are you happy with where you're at in that process right now and where the girls are at?
I am, yeah. That's a great question. I am very proud of the team, the way they've bought in. And, like I said, change is hard. It's hard for them too. And they didn't, sign thinking they were going to play for us. And so that kind of buy-in takes time. And but they have jumped in with 2 feet. And so that makes it a lot easier to teach and to coach and to lead when you're not having to try to pull people along. So they're with us. And so I'm pleased with where they're at. I think we've got a long ways to go. But, not in a way of like, I think we're competitive. I think very much so. And I think Friday we're playing a very good South Dakota team. But I know we're competitive. And I think we're gonna do just fine throughout the season because I know we're gonna compete. These guys are gonna compete. And through the ups and downs, I think if we can, I told them at the beginning of the year, if we can stay healthy and stay committed to each other and to the process, we're going to do just fine. We'll reach our potential. And right now, they're on board with that.
Coach, the biggest change in college basketball, women's basketball this year is the switch to quarters. It seems that it's gotten mixed reviews from people that I've talked to around the state and whatnot. What's your opinion on it, and is it kind of, what's the opinion from your players?
The change to quarters I actually like. I think theoretically the idea is that it speeds up the game. And really, for whatever reason, college basketball, men and women up to this year, are the only basketball in the world that doesn't do quarters. Whether it's high school to pro, international, everybody does quarters. And for some reason, college we did halves. And so, we're all used to that. And so I think, again, change. There's an adjustment period. So theoretically, it's designed, some of the knock on the women's game is it's just kind of, needs to be a little faster of a experience. And I think that it'll do that. It limits the media timeouts, which I like. There's not as many. Like the first called coach timeout of the quarters becomes that quarter's media, which I like. There's no more 1-and-1 that goes to just double bonus after 5 fouls. So a lot of times with a 20-minute half, with 12 minutes to go, you're in the bonus, and then the half just drags on. And so with this, I think it's a chance to restart the fouls, and so you're not shooting as many free throws, again, theoretically. But I think so far, the refs, the officials are calling games tighter at the beginning of the season always, so there is more, and then people are just learning it. I think once players, coaches, officials learn it, I think it's going to be significantly better.
You mentioned that with the double bonus and whatnot. How big of an adjustment is that coaching-wise to know that, hey, 5 fouls is double bonus?
I like it. I really do. I think it kind of eliminates all the guesswork of, wait, where are we in the bonus? Is it 1-on-1? I like it. The thing they're again on the women's side, they're trying to the point of emphasis with the officiating is freedom of movement, both in the post play now and on the perimeter. And so what you'll see early in the season, is that officials are calling it really tight to kind of set the tone for the season. So there's going to be a lot more free throws in November than there are in February as players and coaches and game plans adjust. So I think there's going to be more issue of it in November, or that will be more of a factor. And then I think as everybody adjusts and the officials kind of mellow out a little bit in terms of how tight they call it, it'll go back to where it's not really a factor. But I think it's great. There's also the advancing of the ball rule, like the NBA, minute left in the game, and you get a rebound, you can call timeout and then advance it in front of your bench. Again, trying to generate a little more excitement in end of game situations, which I like that as a coach. That's great.
So first year rebuild, what expectations do you have for this group outside of the win column?
My expectations are that we, again, and I'm not trying to sound cliche, but that we just stay committed to the process, and that we have to stick together. Again, that's a cliche, overused in sports, but it's overused because it's really true. So we just have to handle adversity. That's my, whether it's we get injured or, we have a tough loss or a tough road trip or whatever, we just got to keep, as the saying goes, picking up pennies. You pick up pennies day after day after day, it adds up to a lot. And so we just have to keep doing that. And so those are my expectations. I think I want these guys to have fun playing. I want them to enjoy the experience of being at Utah. This is a great place. It's a great time to be a Ute. So not too much pressure on outcome. And that comes from me. That starts with me. But understanding every time we step on the floor, we want to win. Winning is fun. Losing stinks. So, but if we happen to lose, just keep on moving. Just keep on picking up pennies and going after it.
Thanks, Coach.
Great. Please.
So your teams at Pacific were pretty fast teams.
Yeah.
Led the conference in scoring.
Mm-hmm.
This team was really slow, last in scoring last year. I'm guessing we can expect a faster team. How does that transition take place?
Yeah, so I think you'll see a much faster team this year. I still think we need to recruit to the system more and so, get some. I think the Pac-12 is on the women's basketball side and probably on the men's side, it's a skilled athlete league. There's a lot of athletes and they're very skilled. And so I think we've got some skilled players. I think we've got some athletes. We need to continue recruiting skilled athletes with some size, and it'll just take time to really where the whole kind of my philosophy in the system really is in place. Take 2 or 3 recruiting classes, but we've got some athletes and we've got some skilled players, and we're going to get out and run. I think there's been a tremendously more emphasis put on conditioning. They'll tell you that they're being pushed physically more than they have been, which is every kid will tell you they want to play up tempo, but to do it you got to be in great shape. And so we're getting in great shape, and we're not quite there yet, but we'll get there. But I think you'll see a much more up-tempo team, but I think we also got to play to our strengths and not, run ourselves out of games if we're not able to do it, Great, fire away.
Thanks.
Fire away.
So you've talked about size, and you've talked about staying healthy. What does it mean to have a healthy Emily Potter back for this team?
Yeah, great question. Emily Potter is a stud. She is. And, I think as the year goes, it's a big deal to be out for, almost a year, at least a year, to not play competitive basketball. I mean, she was in the gym and she was, rehabbing and all that, but to not be in a game, it's a big deal. And so I think as the year goes on, she's going to continue to just, as the feel comes back, and just her comfort level out there and her confidence level, it continues to improve and increase. I think it's going to, her game will continue to take off. But, at 6'6", left-handed, skilled, decent athlete, I mean, those are pretty good attributes for a basketball player. We're still working on her overall strength, but her fitness level is fantastic right now. I think she's in the best shape of her life, and she's, if we're going to reach our potential this year, she's going to have a great year. I mean, she's part of that.
Thanks, Coach.
Perfect. Thank you.